It's kind of strange. Our world is just filled with light. We've got glowing screens in our pockets, cities that never sleep, but somehow, doesn't it feel like things are getting darker? Well, 2,000 years ago, Jesus stood on a hillside and said something radical. You are the light of the world. Now, he wasn't just using pretty words. He was giving us the key to who we really are, and it's time we finally understood what he meant.
See, this isn't some ancient history lesson. This is a question for you, for right now. Jesus is asking us to take a hard look at our own lives and ask, is my light actually being seen, or am I hiding it?
Because what he was doing in that moment was revealing a mystery about your identity. Not about who you're trying to be or who you hope you'll become one day, but about who you already are because of him. And honestly, that one little shift changes absolutely everything.
So let's unpack this mystery. Jesus kicked things off with an image that everyone listening that day would have immediately gotten. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden.
Now, to really feel the punch of that statement, you and we got to step back in time. We have to imagine a world with no streetlights, no electricity, a world where the night was truly, deeply dark, and frankly, dangerous.
Back then, cities were always built on high ground. And this wasn't for the great view. No, this was about survival. Being up high gave you a defense against your enemies, and it made you a beacon in a huge, dark landscape. Just imagine being a traveler on some lonely, dangerous road, seeing the faint torchlight of a city in the distance. Man, that meant safety was close. It was a refuge from thieves, from wild animals. That light wasn't just a light. It was direction. It was hope. It was life itself.
Then Jesus does something brilliant. He zooms in from this huge city on a hill to the inside of a tiny home. In a typical house back then, there was just one small oil lamp. And when the sun went down, that one little flame was responsible for pushing back all the darkness.
So his next point was it was just common sense. He says, nobody lights a lamp, their only source of light for the whole house, just to immediately cover it up with a basket. I mean, that would be crazy, right? No, you put it on a stand so it can do its job and light up the place for everyone. So who exactly is he talking to here? Who is this city? Who is this lamp? You might think he's talking to spiritual giants, the super saints, but that's not at all who is sitting in front of him. The cast of this story? It's just ordinary people, fishermen with rough hands, unpopular tax collectors, moms, workers, students. And listen, it even includes the hidden believers, the quiet ones, the ones who feel tired and maybe even a little bit afraid to be seen. If any of that sounds like you, then this message is for you. And that brings us right to the core issue of this whole teaching. Because the real conflict here isn't what you'd probably expect. The problem isn't that the world is dark. I mean, we expect a broken world to be dark. The real conflict, the spiritual tragedy that Jesus is pointing to, is that the lamps, his followers, are being hidden. So what are the baskets we use today to hide our light? Well, it's not always something dramatic. A lot of times, it's just comfort. It's that fear of being rejected, that deep down desire to just blend in and not cause any trouble. It's when we care more about what other people think than what God says. It's when we decide our faith is going to be a totally private thing, that it won't ever show up in what we say or do in public. This all leads to a really important question. What exactly is this light we're supposed to be shining? If we don't get this right, we'll get everything else wrong. Okay, this right here is so important. Notice what Jesus didn't say. He never said, work really hard to make yourself the light. No, he said, you are the light. It's an identity that he gives you, not a status you earn. The light isn't your great personality or how good you are. The light is Christ himself living in you. So when Jesus says, let your light shine so they may see your good works, he's talking about a specific kind of action. These good works are things that don't make people say, wow, look at you. Instead, they make people look past you and say, wow, look at the God you serve. And here's the secret. Light is proven by contrast, not by how loud it is. It's not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being different. When you show patience in a world full of road rage, people notice. When you offer forgiveness in a culture that screams for revenge, people start asking questions. That's the light. A quiet, steady difference that just can't be missed against a dark background. And this job we've been given, it actually has a timeline. It's not forever. We're called to be this light shining in the darkness until the true dawn finally arrives. So what's the ultimate point of being a city on a hill? Is it just about being a good person? No, it's about playing our part in a much, much bigger story that's heading toward a pretty amazing ending. The Bible tells us that as we get closer to the end of this age, things might feel darker. But for a believer, that's not a reason to be afraid. It's a reason to be faithful. Because think about it. The darker the night gets, the more powerful and obvious even a single small flame becomes. This is our moment. What the world is starving for right now is not perfect Christians. Goodness, no. It just needs visible ones. Visible in how we love people. Visible in how we're quick to say we're sorry when we mess up. Visible in our courage, in our pursuit of what's right, and in our humility. And we do all this with so much hope because we know this isn't the final chapter. One day, the true light, Jesus Christ himself, is going to return, and on that day, there will be no more shadows, no more hidden lamps, and no more night. But until that day gets here, your life is a lamp in a dark house. Your faith is a signal fire on a hill. Not so people will look at you and be impressed, but so that they will look up and see the goodness of your Father in heaven. So the question for us today isn't if you are a light, you are. The real question is where. Where is God calling you to take that basket off and just shine? In your family, at your job, in your neighborhood? That's something really worth thinking about.